Alright, hey guys, back again and time for Spider-Man Part 2. Let's go. So we ended on chapter 6 last time. I did a lot more. Let's carry on. He sat next to me and thank God he didn't. Oh, wait. Chapter 7, Coal/Blade Spider, he's cool with me. He sat next to me and thank God he didn't mind me helping. In fact, he seemed to be worried. I don't know exactly why, and I hate to say it, but it seemed only fair to show him what I look like. I mean, I already know what he looks like, so I might as well. I was worried about what he would think about me. Can I really trust him? I thought to myself. Amazingly, he seemed to read my mind, as right after I thought that, he said, "Yes, you can trust me," as he reached forward his hand and gently put it on my shoulder. I also hate to admit this, but I'm not used to human contact. It actually felt kind of good and comforting to be talking to another human being, and after that moment of ensuring I can trust him, I carefully reached up and slid off my mask, hoping for the best. Chapter 8, Spiderman, the Grand Doppelganger Reveal. It took some effort not to gasp as he slowly slipped off his mask. I was shocked, but I tried my best not to show it, as I didn't want him to think that I thought negatively of his appearance. He had silver/platinum hair with some falling over his eye, and some of it was dyed blue that faded into a bright green. He had a scar and a few cuts on his neck, which got me worrying even more. The most alarming and unique thing about him were his eyes. His left eye was a beautiful dark brown that had hints of hazel and almost gray in the iris, but his right eye, his hair was covering it. "Can I see your other eye?" I asked carefully as not to agitate him. He seemed frightened and tense, as if he might make a run for it at any moment. I took my hand off his shoulder and reached forward to brush his hair away from his eye. Once I saw his eye, I immediately knew why his hair was styled in such a way that it would cover it. It was blind. He had a huge scar running across it, in fact, which I guess was the very reason why he was half blind. He looked away, and I noticed he was beginning to blush, probably ashamed of how he looked. "Hey, are you okay?" I said as I reached out, but this time he flinched away. "I do you, do you think I look okay, even with my eye?" he asked me as he brushed his hair back in front of his bad eye. "Come on, you look fine. Besides, if anyone ever did think negative of you, don't think on it for a second, you hear me?" I told him in a weak effort to make him feel better. Luckily, he seemed to take my advice, as he nodded and looked back at me. I took off my mask and smiled at him, and thankfully he gave a small grin, but then I started to smell an almost metallic scent, blood. I looked at his hand, and sure enough, he was covered in blood. I gasped as the grin disappeared from his face and he backed away. "Oh my God, are you okay? Let me see," I said as I reached my hand out, hoping he would agree to show me his injury. He hesitated for a few moments. We sat there for a few minutes after that, but then I decided to make another move. "Please, I want to help you," I whispered, nearly on the verge of tears by now. I sensed him think it over for a minute, but thankfully he took his hand away from his chest, reached out, and placed his injured hand in my extended one. I carefully lifted it closer to my face to get a better look. Once I saw the injury, I knew at once why there was so much blood. He had multiple tears through his suit, a few gashes, but the main source of blood was this huge stab wound in the middle of his palm. I looked at him, and he said, "I accidentally stabbed my hand with a nail back in that room." I now knew why, and I let go of his hand and helped him stand up, as he was getting weaker from the blood loss and probable smoke inhalation. I needed to take you to the hospital, now," I said in a firm voice. He violently shook his head no. "Why not?" I asked. I'm scared of the hospital. I used to have to be put in the ICU all the time as a kid. I was very sick back then, and I didn't like it," he explained. But then I remembered my Aunt May worked at Feast, which was almost like a mini hospital, only it wasn't as advanced as an actual hospital. Well, I say mini hospital, but also is an emergency shelter building for the homeless, and can be used for everyone in times of need. "Well, how about Feast?" I asked. Thankfully, he nodded yes this time, but then, without warning, he collapsed out cold. Chapter 9, Coal/Blade Spider, Void of Nothingness. I was relieved to hear him say that he didn't care about my appearance. I was glad to hear that for once someone didn't judge or make fun of me. In fact, he seemed to almost care for me. I tensed up as he observed my injuries, but relaxed as he was gentle about it. And I was thankful about the advice he gave me. No one had ever been as kind to me before as he is treating me right now. It was a very new experience to me, and I appreciated it very much. He even helped me up when I couldn't do it on my own, as I was weak from blood loss and smoke inhalation. But I soon felt something inside of me go very, very wrong. My mind went blank, and my vision started to fade. And the next thing I knew, everything went black. Last thing I saw was Spider-Man. Then everything faded into a void of nothingness. Now, I actually had... Okay then. Chapter 10. Spiderman, Run for a Life. Kid, I yelled as I leapt forward and caught him just in time. He just fainted and I have no idea why. I knew I needed to rush him to feast. Aunt May and the others could help him there. I picked him up, but as soon as I could, I sensed it wasn't just a stab wound in the cuts that was wrong with him. He weighed way less than he should, and I also sensed he was sick. Why didn't you just tell me? I whispered as a tear rolled on my face. I couldn't swing with him in my arms, so the only thing so there was only other way to get to feast. Run. I sprinted as fast as I could down the street, ignoring all the puzzled and shocked expressions of onlookers. I didn't care about my surroundings at the moment, but all I cared about now was getting the kid to feast. Around 5 minutes later, I was no less than a block away from feast. I'd never been so happy to see a building before in my life. I rushed inside with the kid in my arms. I could feel him slipping away. I ran past all the people taking shelter inside, and I ran up to the medical room, and lucky enough, Aunt May and MJ were there standing there talking. Help, I need help, I shouted at them as I rushed over and carefully laid the kid on the operation table that was placed in the center of the room. My goodness, Peter, Aunt May exclaimed. Pete, what's going on here? Who's the kid and why does he have a suit like yours and everything? MJ asked. I can't explain right now. Just get a damn doctor and help the kid, I replied as I grabbed the phone sitting on the counter behind the operation table and thrust it into Aunt May's hands. MJ and I gathered a few supplies from the cabinets mounted on the walls as Aunt May called for a doctor, a surgeon, and a nurse to come into the hospital. Thank you so much, Aunt May said as she hung up the phone. A doctor, a nurse, and a surgeon are on their way, Peter, Aunt May said as she looked at me. Good, I replied, and as I got an oxygen tank and mask. MJ took the tank and the mask from me and put it on the kid. At the time, emotion started to set in. Out of nowhere, I just started crying. Pete, what's wrong? MJ gently asked as she walked over to me. It's the kid. If he dies, that's a life I failed to save. He's only a kid. I don't want to see him die like this, in front of me. He's so young, and he's a spider person, like me and Miles. I can't let another life slip from my fingers like this, I answered in between sobs. It's okay, Peter. You did the right thing by bringing me here, Aunt May said as she placed her hand on my shoulder, just as I did with the kid no less than an hour ago. All of a sudden, the doctor, the nurse, and the surgeon burst through the room, carrying a ton of supplies in duffel bags. The doctor ordered for us to leave the room as the nurse and surgeon began to operate on the kid. I'd never been so scared for life other than my own at this moment. When the doors closed, separating me from the kid, I began to wonder if I would ever see him again. Chapter 11. Coal/Blade Spider. 15 hours gone and lost. I thought I could hear yelling and crying from the outside world. I seemed to be lost in space, only it wasn't space at all. It wasn't anything, really. I was just surrounded by black. Then my mind completely wiped out. I was just gone. I couldn't feel, see, or hear anyone or anything anymore. Just nothing. Then I woke up sometime later. I was starting to get my senses back. Good, I can still function and remember things, I thought to myself. I opened my eyes. I was in this white room and I was dressed in hospital clothing now. I was lying in bed with a blanket over me and a damp cloth on my forehead. I looked around and then I saw I had an IV drip in my arm and bandages on my hands and neck. I didn't see my suit anywhere. I didn't see anyone else with me in the room either. I was starting to panic. I took the cloth off my head and placed it on a plate that was sitting on a small table next to my bed. I sat up and looked around more. I didn't know this place. Was it the hospital? Was I dead? I don't know. I really don't know. Panic was starting to set in for real. I took off the blanket and tried to get up, but as soon as I did, I didn't feel too good, so I sat back down on the bed. I was starting to hyperventilate as well. I looked around several more times, and then I noticed a clock on the wall. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. Almost 15 hours had passed. What happened? Chapter 12. Spiderman. Good news. I was pacing back and forth in front of his room. I thought I heard noises in there from time to time, but I was too scared to look through the small circular window in the door. I stayed like this for around 2 hours before the doctor, Dr. Lin, came up to me and said, All right, we ran some tests to see what was wrong with him, and we just got the results. Unfortunately, we just got to the last chapter I have so far, and my recording app being, not the best, it's only like on the beta version, says we have to stop in approximately 16 seconds. Alright, so that's what I have so far. We'll have more next time. Sorry I glitched out in the middle. And anyways, yeah, that's about it. So, see you guys next time. Alright, bye.